Hi, I'm Bob Ellis, and on this episode of Explorer, we're visiting Natural Tunnel State Park in Scott County, Virginia. This is Natural Tunnel State Park. The park is named after a 1-million-year-old tunnel carved by Stock Creek, which curves under Purchase Ridge in Scott County, Virginia. South of the ridge, the cave opens up into a spectacular basin encircled on three sides by 400-foot cliffs. To get to Natural Tunnel State Park, from I-81, take US 23 north through Gate City, Virginia, and on up 23 to mile marker 17.4. where you take a right onto Natural Tunnel Parkway, and the park entrance is about a mile on the right. While the tunnel is obviously the focal point of the park, the over 900 acres contain many hiking trails ranging from moderate to difficult and ranging from a half a mile to more than 2 miles. But they offer spectacular views such as this one at Lover's Leap. The Lover's Leap Trail, along with the short trail down to the tunnel, are considered must-see additions to any Scott County visit. The 0.3-mile trail into the gorge is steep but short, winding down the side of the cliff to the mouth of the tunnel. While the terrain is rugged, this is a very nice, safe place if you follow the rules. The park has a well-developed system of trails and pedestrian bridges with railing and fencing to keep you safe while you're enjoying the splendor of the park. One thing to remember, though, is that the railroad right-of-way is off limits. And that is a constant theme throughout the park. This is an active railroad, and several trains a day make use of the natural tunnel. This area of southwest Virginia is right-of-way for trains taking coal from the mines further north, with spectacular trestles built to traverse the rough terrain. But these rails didn't always only carry coal. This is the south entrance to the tunnel. Obviously, it was millions of years in the making. Railroad construction began here in 1882, and by the turn of the 20th century, passenger service was established on what came to be known as the tunnel route from Bristol to Louisville, Kentucky. Due to the uniqueness of the area, passengers frequently would disembark here in order to explore the area. The tunnel is an active railway tunnel, so access is prohibited except for one day out of the year when the railroad shuts down the tracks and allows visitors to walk the length of the tunnel. We plan on coming back for that day. Contact the park for the date and time. The Commonwealth of Virginia acquired the tunnel and 100 surrounding acres in 1967 from the Natural Tunnel Chasm and Caverns Corporation to establish Natural Tunnel State Park. Approximately 750 acres were later acquired, and the park opened in 1971. In 1997, the park acquired this log cabin and reconstructed it in this location beside Stock Creek. This cabin, which is widely believed to be the oldest home in Scott County, Virginia, was built in 1784, about 10 years after the building of Carter's Fort, also known as Rye Cove Fort. Visiting the cabin here in the park today, it's hard to imagine what it must have been like for those early settlers alone in the wilderness and living only on what the land could provide. We visited the park in February when the number of visitors is much less than in the summer months. One of the amenities here in the park is the chairlift system, which delivers visitors from the parking area down to the river and the railroad level, where you can see the actual tunnel entrance. And even more importantly, it delivers you back up to the parking area. However, if you're here during the winter months when it's non-operational, be prepared to walk. The trip up the walk to the parking area takes about 10 minutes without a rest. But if you aren't used to this kind of exercise, there are benches to give you a place to take a pause and enjoy the view. While there weren't a lot of visitors to the park while we were there were some.
We decided we got to get out and do something, and asked about some things to see, and they said this is one of the pretty cool wonders of Virginia. It's beautiful, man. The park is amazing so far. I can't wait to get down to the bottom to see what the little water looks like, and the tunnel that they were speaking of, and whatever else it holds for us. So as far as we can walk, we're going to do it today. For us being in Florida, we definitely don't see stuff like that. Nor a hill or a mountain, whatever it's called here, but yeah. And that's where we're going to go, and we're going to call you guys later to help us back up the hill.
Believe it or not, family history research.
Really?
Found out that my fourth great grandfather actually lived in eastern northern Tennessee for about 40 years of his life, coming to see the replica of the blockhouse and get a book about it and kind of learn more about the Wilderness Road, because I think that's how he traveled in to the state.
That was also how a large number of Americans hiked in. The trail was blazed through the Cumberland Gap in 1775 and would serve as a gateway for more than 300,000 settlers to the land west of the Cumberland. Behind me is a recreation of the John Anderson Blockhouse. It was a way station along the Wilderness Trail. The Wilderness Trail was cut by Daniel Boone between here and Cumberland Gap in the early expansion of our nation. It's widely believed that Boone was one of the earliest settlers to lay eyes on the natural tunnel. The Anderson Blockhouse was used as a rallying point where travelers would meet to start the long and dangerous journey through hostile territory. But the settlers weren't the first to use that route. The trail followed ancient traces or trails that were used by Native Americans to follow game and to make attacks on each other. In fact, the earliest name for the route was roughly translated to mean Path of the Armed Ones, or the Great Warrior's Path. The Blockhouse is part of the state park and has its own visitors center. While the park is not as large as many state parks, it is rich in amenities. Facilities include 2 campgrounds, cabins, picnic areas, an amphitheater, a visitor center, a camp store, and a gift shop. You'll also find the Wilderness Road Historic Area, a swimming pool with a 100-foot slide, and a chairlift to the tunnel floor. Guests enjoy cave tours and canoe trips on the Clinch River, as well as the Cove Ridge Center, which offers environmental education, conference facilities, and overnight dorm accommodations. A camp store and kayak programs are new this year. As one would expect, some of these amenities are only available during the warmer months, so check with the park at 276-940-2674. The park was almost deserted on a cool winter day that we were there. There's a certain peacefulness in these steep canyons. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Explorer. Natural Tunnel is only one of our many natural treasures. So do yourself a favor, grab the kids, take the dogs, and get out and enjoy this beautiful area that we call home.